A young couple, struggling with financial difficulties, is searching for a wedding ring, hoping to find something simple to symbolize their love. When Shaquille O'Neal hears their story, Shaq doesn't hesitate to step forward, purchasing the perfect rings for the couple and offering them words of encouragement, a gesture that forever changes their lives. What began as a small act of kindness became a source of hope for a life filled with possibilities, as that generous gesture not only helped Lisa and Mark overcome their hardships, but also inspired them to transform their entire community. Shaq's generosity created a ripple effect, proving that even the smallest acts of compassion can change lives in extraordinary ways. Follow this incredible story, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to discover more inspiring tales of kindness. Share your thoughts, and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to connect with you. Lisa and Mark live in a small suburb of Atlanta, where old houses with peeling paint line up side by side, porches sag, and the noise of traffic never ceases. For them, life has always been a long string of days battling difficulties, but their love is the only light guiding them through harsh challenges. Mark, a small and slender young man, is 27 years old this year. He works the night shift at a warehouse on the outskirts of the city, where he lifts heavy boxes for hours on end. His hands are rough and calloused, his body exhausted every time he comes home early in the morning, but his eyes still light up when he thinks of Lisa. Mark doesn't possess exceptional physical strength, but he exudes a rare determination. For him, Lisa is the motivation that keeps him striving, even when life is anything but easy. Mark never complains about his job or his circumstances, but he always feels he hasn't done enough to bring the happiness Lisa deserves. Lisa, 25 years old, is a girl with soft brown hair and gentle-looking eyes. She works part-time at a small neighborhood cafe. Despite her meager wages, Lisa strives to save every penny, both planning for their future and taking care of her elderly mother who struggles with arthritis. Every morning, she often wakes up early to prepare a simple meal for her mother before going to work. On late nights, as Lisa sits at the dining table, counting coins to pay the bills, Mark often stands in the corner of the room, watching her with a saddened gaze. Nevertheless, Lisa always tries to hide her worries with a gentle smile. One morning, Mark returns home after a long shift. He walks through the squeaky little wooden door and sees Lisa sitting by the window. Sunlight filters through the thin curtains, casting light on her face, making everything look like a still painting. In front of her is a small notebook where Lisa often writes down their future plans. She is attentively flipping through the pages, calculating the amount needed for their wedding. The numbers are written in small, careful handwriting, but Mark knows that behind them lies the worry Lisa doesn't want him to see. Mark approaches and sits down beside her, his eyes showing a hint of hesitation. He takes Lisa's hand. His small, calloused hand stands out against her smooth skin. "I'm sorry, Lisa," he whispers, his voice tinged with regret. "I should be able to do more. You shouldn't have to worry like this." Lisa smiles gently, her eyes looking at him with her usual tenderness. "Don't say that, Mark. I don't need anything but you. We'll get through this together, right?" Mark nods, but inside he feels weighed down by self-blame. He knows Lisa always tries to stay strong, but he also understands that she deserves more. The promises he had silently made to himself years ago, to give Lisa a happy, fulfilling life, now seem out of reach. That afternoon, after resting, Mark decides to take Lisa to a small jewelry store in the town center. It's an unexpected decision, but he had been thinking about it for a long time. For months, Mark had been trying to save every little bit. He knew he couldn't afford an extravagant ring, but he believed a small, simple, yet sincere ring would best express his love and commitment to Lisa. The jewelry store is modestly located on a busy street. The faded sign hanging on the storefront had dulled over the years, but inside the store was entirely different. Warm, yellow light from chandeliers shines down on the sparkling jewelry displayed on black velvet. The space is small but cozy, giving a sense of intimacy. Mark and Lisa step inside, hand in hand, their curious eyes scanning the display cabinets. They stop in front of a simple white gold ring with a small stone set in it. Lisa gazes at the ring for a long time, her eyes showing both affection and hesitation. She knows Mark has worked hard to bring her here, but she also understands their situation. She doesn't want him to feel any more pressure. "It's beautiful, Mark," she says softly, her voice barely above a whisper, afraid to break the silence in the store. "But maybe we should wait a little longer." Mark looks at the price tag under the ring, $450. He feels like a heavy stone is pressing on his chest. This number is far beyond his current means, even though he has tried his best to save. Still, he doesn't want to disappoint Lisa. "If you like it, I'll find a way. We just need a bit more time," Mark says, trying to keep his voice steady, but his eyes reveal his disappointment. Lisa smiles gently, placing her hand over his, softly pulling him away from the display case. "It's okay, Mark. I love you, not the ring." They leave the store, but a sense of regret lingers in the air. The salesperson, a middle-aged man with a kind face, quietly watches them leave. He's used to this scene, young couples unable to afford the items they desire. In a corner of the store, a tall man stands silently observing. It's Shaquille O'Neal, also known as Shaq, a legendary basketball player. Despite being famous and wealthy, Shaq always appears modest, wearing a t-shirt and jeans. He doesn't flaunt his fame, but anyone can recognize him by his towering height and friendly demeanor. Shaq happened to visit the store today to choose a birthday gift for a close friend. When his eyes caught Lisa and Mark leaving, he felt something familiar. Memories of his impoverished childhood rushed back, days when his mother, Lucille O'Neal, worked from dawn till dusk to support the family. Shaq remembered the time when the family couldn't afford food, and a stranger silently paid for their groceries. That small act changed his life forever. Shaq turns to the salesperson and asks about the ring that Lisa had looked at. After a moment of thought, he smiles. "I'll take it," he says, "but please ask them to come back. Tell them someone wants to give them a gift." The salesperson is surprised, but upon realizing who the man standing before him is, he nods and quickly prepares the ring. Lisa and Mark's story is just beginning, but a small miracle awaits them. Lisa and Mark are standing outside the store, about to step back onto the street when a voice calls out from behind. "Excuse me, could you come back for a moment?" The salesperson, with a strange look and a kind smile, stands at the entrance, gently waving. Both turn around, slightly confused but curious. Lisa tightly grips Mark's hand for reassurance. They follow the salesperson back into the store, not understanding what is happening. At this moment, their eyes are drawn to a tall man standing at the display counter, holding the small white gold ring they had just admired. The man turns around, offering a kind smile. "This ring is beautiful," he says, his deep voice filling the small space of the store, "and I think you two need it more than I do." Lisa and Mark stand motionless. They quickly recognize the man in front of them. There's no mistaking it. This is Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball legend they've seen on TV. But instead of the imposing, star-like presence, they see a humble man in a t-shirt and jeans with friendly and warm eyes. Mark stammers, his small shoulders trembling slightly. "You're Shaq? What are you talking about?" he asks, his voice revealing his surprise. Shaq nods, his eyes shining with sincerity. "I saw you two looking at this ring with special eyes. She loves the ring, and you want her to be happy. I've been in your position before, and I understand. So, I'm going to buy this ring for you both. Consider it a gift from me." Lisa, who always tried to stay strong, now couldn't hold back her tears. Tears start streaming down her cheeks. "You don't have to do this for us," she chokes. "You don't know us." "You're right. I don't know you," Shaq replies, his voice calm but firm. "But that doesn't matter. When I was young, someone did something good for my family without expecting anything in return. I just want to do the same." Mark looks at Lisa, feeling her tight grip on his hand, and senses her trembling. His own eyes are now red. "We can't accept this. It's too much." He shakes his head, his voice trailing off. Shaq gently places his hand on Mark's shoulder, his eyes serious but compassionate. "Listen, kid, this isn't about money or the value of the ring. It's about love. I see you two love each other, and you're trying to build a better future. Don't overthink it. Just take good care of her and spread this love to others." Mark turns to Lisa, seeing the emotion mixed with joy in her eyes. After a moment of hesitation, he turns back to Shaq and nods softly. "Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll never forget this." Shaq hands the ring to Lisa. Her hands tremble as she takes the small ring box. The ring, with its sparkling stone, is no longer just jewelry. To her, it becomes a symbol of a miracle, an unconditional act of kindness. The salesperson stands nearby, watching everything with a smile on his face. He has worked in this store for many years, but he's never witnessed such a special moment. Shaq gently pats Mark's shoulder again, smiles, and leaves the store before either of them can say anything more. Lisa and Mark watch the tall figure disappear, feeling like they've just experienced a dream. Outside, Shaq walks down the street, wearing a low-brimmed baseball cap to avoid the curious eyes of passers-by. Despite his fame and wealth, he always maintains a humble demeanor. Shaq doesn't seek recognition or thanks. For him, kindness is something to be done quietly. Back in the store, Lisa and Mark sit down on a small chair in the corner, still in awe. Lisa opens the small box, her eyes fixed on the ring as if she's seeing the whole world within it. The small stone reflects the chandelier's light, sparkling magically. "Can you believe it?" Lisa whispers, her voice still shaky. Mark shakes his head. "I don't know what to say, Lisa. This is like a miracle." He raises his hand to wipe the tears streaming down her cheeks. Lisa smiles gently through her tears. "This ring isn't just a testament to our love. It's also a symbol of hope, that there are still wonderful people in this world." Mark nods. "And I promise, Lisa, I'll do everything to make you happy. It's our way of repaying this kindness." They leave the store again, this time with hearts full of hope. The small ring not only represents a promise of love, but also serves as a reminder that even in the darkest days, kindness can illuminate the path forward. In the soft, golden afternoon sunlight, Lisa and Mark walk down the busy street, holding hands tightly. They don't speak, but their eyes hold a newfound belief. In the distance, Shaq's tall figure fades into the crowd, but his actions will forever remain in their minds, a gift of kindness, love, and hope. Lisa and Mark have gone through many hardships together, but their wedding day stands out as a bright spot in their tumultuous lives. It was a warm autumn afternoon, with golden rays filtering through old trees, illuminating the small yard behind Mrs. Johnson's house, the elderly but enthusiastic neighbor. She had offered to host the ceremony in her backyard, saying, "You young couple don't need to spend money renting a venue. Let me help, and we'll make it a special day together." With the help of their neighbors, the small yard became more vibrant than ever. Colorful ribbons were neatly tied to the branches. Simple clusters of balloons hung on the tables and chairs brought by everyone in the neighborhood. An old wooden table covered with a thin white cloth became the wedding table. In the center, a modest wedding cake handmade by Mrs. Johnson was placed elegantly, emanating the scent of vanilla and brown sugar. "You might not have much, but your love is abundant. This is my gift to you two," Mrs. Johnson said, her eyes shining with pride. Mark stood on a small stage temporarily set up with a few planks of wood, wearing a simple yet neat suit. Lisa stood beside him in an elegant white dress borrowed from a friend in the neighborhood. Although it wasn't a new dress, it looked more beautiful on Lisa than Mark could have imagined. She smiled, her eyes filled with happiness as she looked toward Mark. When everyone was quiet, Mark began to tell the story about Shaq. His voice was warm, but sometimes faltered when mentioning the moment they received the ring. "We don't know him, and he doesn't know us," Mark said, his eyes reflecting strong emotions. "But he did something we never thought was possible. Not just the ring, but the belief that in this world there are still people willing to help." Lisa placed her hand on Mark's, her eyes sparkling. They said nothing more, but their silence spoke volumes. Applause filled the air, not just from the neighbors, but from the hearts of those witnessing. It was a small ceremony, but filled with love and hope. But life after the wedding wasn't all rosy. Just a few weeks later, new challenges arose. Mark received a layoff notice from the warehouse where he worked. The company declared bankruptcy, and he, along with dozens of other workers, lost their jobs without any compensation. The news came on a morning when Mark was fixing a broken window. He stood silently by the table, holding the letter, unable to speak. Lisa walked in, immediately noticing the distress on Mark's face. She approached, gently placing her hand on his shoulder. "What's wrong, Mark?" Mark looked at her, his eyes filled with helplessness. "I got fired, Lisa. What are we going to do now?" Lisa hugged him, her small hands soothing the trembling in his body. "We'll get through this, Mark. We always do. Don't worry, I'm here with you." However, the difficulties didn't stop there. Lisa, due to overworking at the cafe, began experiencing back and arm pain. After a medical checkup, the doctor advised her to rest and avoid heavy work. This caused them to lose a portion of their already meager income. In the days that followed, Mark and Lisa lived in a state of stress. They did their best to make ends meet, but bills piled up on the table, rent was due, and the kitchen refrigerator was nearly empty. Many nights, Mark sat by the window, looking out at the dark neighborhood, wondering how to overcome everything. But every time he looked at Lisa, who always smiled to encourage him despite her own exhaustion, he felt he couldn't give up. Mark started searching for a new job. He knocked on doors of every company in the area, ready to take any job, from delivery to household repairs. Meanwhile, Lisa, while taking time off work, dedicated herself to learning about small business. She dreamed of the day they could open their own cafe, a place not only as a source of income but also as a space to share kindness with the community, just like what they had received. One morning, as Mark returned home after a long day of job hunting, they received an unexpected gift from Mrs. Johnson. It was an old coffee machine she had kept in storage for many years. "I thought you two might need it," she said, her eyes full of confidence. "Start with small things. I believe you can do it." Lisa and Mark were moved by this small but meaningful gesture. Lisa began experimenting with making coffee and baking at home. She invited neighbors to try, received feedback, and gradually perfected the recipes. Mark, though still doing odd jobs to make a living, was always there to support her. "We can do this, Lisa," he said one evening as they sat on the floor, repairing the old coffee machine together. "I believe in you, and I believe that all these hardships are just temporary." Long nights and days filled with worry began to bear fruit. Lisa and Mark gradually built something greater. They dreamed of a cafe named Shaq's Promise. Not just a place to make a living, but a symbol of kindness, opportunity, and hope. Though life still posed challenges, Lisa and Mark knew they had a solid foundation. Not only the wedding ring, but also the lessons of love, sharing, and gratitude. They believed that with love and determination, nothing was impossible. In their hearts, Shaq's actions were proof of that, and each new day was an opportunity to make their dream come true. Lisa and Mark overcame the toughest days, and the small cafe named Shaq's Promise gradually became an indispensable part of their lives and their community. Initially, the cafe was just a corner in their humble home where people could stop by for a cup of coffee or enjoy the homemade pastries Lisa made. But it quickly became a place that connected people, where kindness, sharing, and hope were kindled every day. Mornings in the cafe were always bustling with laughter and conversation. Lisa stood behind the counter, deftly brewing coffee while Mark greeted customers with a warm smile. Neighbors gradually came to see the cafe as a familiar spot. An elderly lady often stopped by each morning, savoring a hot cup of coffee and telling Lisa stories from her youth. Workers from the area would gather before work, sharing stories about their jobs and families. One day, Mrs. Johnson, the elderly neighbor who had helped them so much, brought an idea. "Lisa, Mark," she said, her eyes brightening, "this cafe isn't just a place for people to drink coffee. It's where they find hope. Why not organize an event to spread this kindness? A day where everyone can feel the love and sharing." Lisa looked at Mark, and both were inspired. After some discussion, they decided to organize Kindness Day, an event for everyone in the neighborhood. They would provide free coffee and pastries, especially for the homeless and those in need. To prepare, Lisa and Mark worked tirelessly. They stayed up late, prepared batches of pastries, and transformed the front yard into an open space with tables and chairs borrowed from neighbors. When they announced the event, the neighborhood enthusiastically joined in to help. Some brought additional ingredients, others volunteered to set up a small stage, and some went door to door inviting everyone to participate. Early morning on the day of the event, the sky was clear blue, and the gentle golden sunlight stretched across the street. Wooden tables were neatly arranged in front of Lisa's porch, decorated with wildflowers picked from the nearby garden. Neighbors arrived, bringing their excitement. But what moved Lisa and Mark the most was when the homeless people in the area, who usually wandered the alleys, also came. They walked in with hesitant eyes, but upon receiving welcoming smiles, their reluctance quickly vanished. Mark brought out cups of hot coffee, while Lisa placed freshly baked pastries on the table. An elderly man with gray hair and a weathered face took a sip of coffee and nodded. "The coffee is really good," he said, his voice rough but sincere. "I don't remember the last time I had something warm like this." Lisa smiled, her eyes misty. "As long as everyone feels happy, that's enough for us." That day, laughter echoed throughout the neighborhood. People who didn't know each other before now sat together, chatting like old friends. A local boy brought a large bag of old clothes and said, "My mom told us to give these to those in need. We hope we can help a little." As dusk fell, Lisa and Mark sat on the porch, watching everyone slowly go home. They felt a joy they had never felt before, the joy of giving and connecting with those around them. But they didn't realize that this small event was just the beginning. In the following weeks, Shaq's Promise Bond became more famous than ever. A local newspaper article told the story of Lisa and Mark, from the ring that Shaq gave them to how they used kindness to build the community. The article quickly caught attention. Many people came to the cafe not only to enjoy coffee, but also to hear this special story. One day, a young entrepreneur visited the cafe. After talking with Lisa and Mark, he offered to help them expand. "I want to support you," he said. "Your story is incredibly inspiring. I believe that with kindness and effort, you can achieve even more." Lisa and Mark were initially hesitant, but after careful discussion they decided to accept the help. With the funds donated by the entrepreneur and the community, they upgraded the cafe, adding new furniture, improving the coffee machines, and opening a garden area where people could gather more comfortably. Not stopping there, Lisa and Mark began organizing free barista classes for the youth in the neighborhood. They wanted to impart skills and create opportunities for young people, especially those in difficult circumstances. A young man named Jake, who often hung out with bad friends, joined the class. After a few weeks, Jake came to Lisa with determined eyes. "Thank you, Lisa," he said. "I think I can find a stable job now. I want to change my life." The classes gradually attracted more participants. Lisa and Mark realized that their cafe had become a center not only for drinking coffee, but also for learning, sharing, and connecting. One late evening, after the cafe closed, Lisa and Mark sat on the steps, looking up at the starry sky. A bag was placed at the door containing barista supplies and a small card with the words, "Thank you for bringing hope to us. Please continue to spread kindness." Lisa held the card, feeling her heart warm. "Mark, do you think we've done something great?" she asked, her eyes shining. Mark looked at her, holding her hand tightly. "I think everything is just beginning, Lisa, and everything we're doing stems from a single act of kindness. Shaq planted the seed, and we're just continuing to nurture it." They sat there for a long time, feeling peace in their hearts. The difficulties and challenges were no longer worries, but now became motivation to keep going. Lisa looked up at the sky, where the stars sparkled like thousands of untold dreams. "We won't stop, Mark," she said, "and I believe that if kindness can spread from one person to another, the world will gradually become better." And under the dim street light, Shaq's Promise stood there like a small beacon, illuminating not only a neighborhood but also dreams reaching further. One fresh spring morning, Lisa was preparing new batches of pastries in the small kitchen behind Shaq's Promise Cafe. The sweet aroma of vanilla and butter filled the room, mingling with the rich coffee scent that Mark was brewing in front. The soft sunlight streamed through the window, creating a peaceful yet vibrant scene for a new day. Lisa heard the doorbell ring, signaling customers' arrival. Placing the tray of pastries down, she wiped her hands on her apron and stepped to the counter. Just as she was busy greeting regular customers, a tall figure walked in, making her pause. The man was wearing a low-brimmed cap, a simple shirt, but his large build and warm eyes made him unmistakable. Lisa froze for a few seconds, her eyes wide as she recognized the person standing before her. Her hands trembled slightly as she exclaimed, "Shaq?" Mark, who was wiping a nearby table, was also stunned when he heard the man's name. He looked up, and the warm smile on Shaquille O'Neal's familiar face made his heart race. "Hello, you two," Shaq said, his deep voice friendly. "I heard about this cafe, and I wanted to come see it for myself. It seems like you've done something truly special." Mark immediately stepped forward, taking Shaq's large hand. "Sir, do you know about us?" His voice faltered with emotion. Shaq nodded, his eyes full of affection. "I read an article in the newspaper about this cafe, and when I saw the name Shaq's Promise, I guessed it was you. I'm very proud of what you've done." Lisa quickly regained her composure, a radiant smile appearing on her face. "Shaq, we don't know how to thank you. Everything we have today started from your act of kindness." Shaq shook his head, raising his hand to signal her to stop. "I just did something very small. You two turned it into something extraordinary. I really want to know, how did everything happen?" Lisa and Mark sat down with Shaq at a small table in the corner of the cafe, recounting the entire story from the day they received the wedding ring, the subsequent hardships, and how they overcame them to make Shaq's Promise a reality. They talked about Goodness Day, about the youth who had strayed but found a new path, and about the homeless people who received help from the community thanks to this cafe. Shaq listened attentively, his eyes lighting up with emotion each time Lisa spoke about the lives that had been changed. "You two have done very well," he said after a moment of silence, "but I think we can do even more." Lisa and Mark looked at each other, surprised by his unexpected proposal. "What do you mean?" Mark asked, his voice faltering with curiosity. Shaq leaned forward, his eyes full of determination. "This cafe has become a beacon of kindness in the neighborhood. But why not take this further? I want to help you expand. Let's bring Shaq's Promise to more places, to spread the message of kindness and hope." In the following weeks, Shaq not only became a special guest, but also an integral part of Lisa and Mark's new journey. With his financial support and influence, Shaq helped them plan the opening of a second branch of the cafe in a nearby poor neighborhood. But he didn't stop at providing resources. Shaq personally participated in community meetings, spoke with sponsors, and inspired others to join the cause. The grand opening of the second branch took place in a lively atmosphere. A small stage was set up right in front of the cafe, and hundreds of people from neighboring areas came to attend. Shaq, with his towering presence and friendly smile, stepped onto the stage with Lisa and Mark standing beside him. Holding the microphone, his voice rang out strong and emotional. "We don't need to be rich or famous to do good. All we need is kindness, a small action, and a sincere heart. Lisa and Mark are the clearest proof of that. They turned a small gift into a great source of inspiration, changing not only their lives but also the community around them. I believe that if we all work together, we can build a better world." Applause echoed loudly. Lisa couldn't hold back her tears as she looked out at the crowd. She knew that their efforts had not been in vain. They had not only created a cafe but also built a united community where kindness was shared and multiplied. Not long after, Shaq's Promise was no longer just a cafe but became a symbol of hope and change throughout the city. Lisa's free barista classes now attracted not only local youth but also people from other places seeking to learn. Among them was Jake, a young man who had once been lost. Thanks to Lisa's classes, Jake found a stable job at a major cafe in the city. On the day he came to thank Lisa and Mark, his eyes shone with new hope. "Ms. Lisa, Mr. Mark," Jake said, his voice choked. "I didn't just learn how to make coffee from you two. I learned how to believe in myself. Thank you for giving me the chance to change." Lisa smiled, taking Jake's hand. "We're just the ones who lit the candle. You brighten the whole room, Jake." Jake's story was not unique. Many people had found a new path thanks to what Lisa and Mark were doing, but they knew it all started from Shaq's single act of kindness. One evening, after the cafe closed, Shaq sat down with Lisa and Mark at a small table. The soft yellow light illuminated the room and gentle jazz music played from an old speaker. Shaq raised his coffee cup, took a sip, and looked at Lisa and Mark with pride. "I'm very proud of you two," he said, his voice warm. "But remember, this journey is just beginning. There are still many people out there who need a light. You've done something wonderful, and I believe you'll continue to spread this kindness." Lisa nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "We won't stop, Shaq. We'll keep going for everyone who has believed in and supported us." Mark placed his hand on Lisa's, looking towards Shaq. "Thank you, not just for what you've done, but for giving us the faith that kindness can change the world." Shaq smiled, his eyes sparkling like the stars outside the window. "Kindness always has the power to change, Mark. It doesn't need to be flashy. It doesn't need a reward. As long as you keep your hearts warm, I believe the world will become a better place each day." That night, Lisa and Mark sat for a long time, looking up at the starry sky. They knew their journey was still long, but they were not alone. With Shaq's support and faith, they could bring hope and kindness wherever they went. And so, Shaq's Promise continued to spread, not just as a cafe, but as a symbol of the miracles that kindness can bring to life. As time passed, from a small corner cafe, Shaq's Promise had grown into a network of cafes and community support programs across the city. But for Lisa and Mark, each day still began with simple things: a steaming cup of coffee, the morning smiles of regular customers, and the hope that they could do even more. One April afternoon, soft sunlight filtered through the cafe's glass panes. Lisa was preparing fresh pastries in the kitchen, while Mark stood outside welcoming a group of youths joining the barista class. Everything was calm and smooth, but they didn't know that today would mark a significant turning point in their lives. Around midday, the cafe door opened and a man walked in. He was tall, stylish in a neat suit, with meticulously combed salt and pepper hair. In his hand was an envelope, and his eyes shone with unusual emotion. Lisa immediately noticed him and sensed something special. The man approached the counter where Lisa stood. "Hello, miss," he said, his voice rough but sincere. "I don't know if you recognize me, but I'm one of the homeless people who attended your first Goodness Day event." Back then, I had nothing. No family, no home, no hope. But what I received from that cup of coffee and those pastries changed everything." Lisa froze. She recognized his eyes, now shining with the faith she had never seen before. The man continued, "I've decided to change my life since that day. I found a job and gradually saved up to rent a room. Today, I came here to say thank you and to give back the gift you gave me. Not in the form of coffee or pastries, but in the form of how I can help others." He placed the envelope on the table. Lisa hesitated, but he raised his hand, signaling her to take it. "Don't refuse," he said. "This is my contribution for you to continue doing good for others, like you did for me." Lisa couldn't hold back her tears. She placed her hand on his and said, her voice choking, "You don't need to give anything back. We only hope you live well and happily. But thank you. You've already done the most wonderful thing. You didn't give up." Another day, at the third branch of Shaq's Promise, Lisa and Mark organized a graduation ceremony for a group of youths who had just completed the barista course. The ceremony was simple, but full of pride. Jake, a young man who had once been lost, stepped up to receive his certificate amid loud applause. Jake took the microphone, his voice shaky but determined. "A year ago, I didn't know where I was going. But thanks to Lisa and Mark, thanks to this cafe, I found my path. Not just in making coffee, but I learned to trust myself. I promised to use this opportunity to help others, just like I was helped." Lisa smiled, tears welling up as she looked at Jake. "We're proud of you, Jake, but you should also be proud of yourself. You've done something extraordinary." Jake's words were not just a thank you. They were proof of the change that Shaq's Promise brought. One morning, Lisa received an unexpected call from Shaq. "Lisa, Mark," he said excitedly, "I have a big idea. This is not just about the cafe anymore. It's about creating a global movement." When they met at the organization's headquarters, Shaq presented his detailed plan. He wanted to turn Shaq's Promise into a nonprofit organization, not only expanding the chain of cafes but also organizing youth vocational programs, providing free meals for the homeless, and building community centers in difficult areas. Lisa and Mark could hardly believe what they were hearing. "Do you think we can do that?" Lisa asked, her eyes showing a mix of worry and hope. Shaq smiled, placing his hand on her shoulder. "I don't just think. I know you can. You proved it from day one, and I'll stand by you in this journey." Since then, Shaq's Promise has gone beyond the boundaries of one city. New branches opened in many places, each carrying the message of kindness and hope. Events like Goodness Day became annual traditions, attracting thousands of participants, not only recipients of help, but also those who wanted to help. One of the organization's greatest achievements was building vocational training centers in poor areas. These centers not only taught barista skills, but also provided soft skills, helping young people find jobs and gain confidence in life. Shaq continued to spread Lisa and Mark's story through interviews, events, and social media. He wanted the whole world to know that kindness, no matter how small, can create unexpected changes. One evening, at the annual fundraising gala of Shaq's Promise, Lisa stood before hundreds of attendees, her eyes sparkling with emotion. "We used to think that kindness was rare, but today I realize it's everywhere. A small act can change an entire life, and when kindness spreads, it can change the whole world." In the crowd, Shaq smiled, his eyes filled with pride. He knew that the journey he started from a simple act had now become a global movement. And he also knew that what Lisa and Mark had done was the clearest testament to the power of kindness. That night, as Lisa and Mark sat again with Shaq, they looked out at the starry sky. Mark said, his voice warm, "All of this started with you, Shaq. You believed in us, and that changed everything." Shaq shook his head, a gentle smile appearing. "I just planted a seed. You two turned it into a whole forest." And under the sparkling stars, the three of them sat there, knowing that their story was not over. It was just beginning, with every cup of coffee, every act of kindness, and every dream ignited by goodness. Shaq's Promise was not just an organization, but a symbol of hope, change, and humanity. The story of Lisa, Mark, and Shaq was not just about a cafe, but about the power of kindness and its ability to spread. From a small act, Shaq planted a seed of hope, and Lisa and Mark turned that seed into a shaded forest where dreams were protected and lives were changed. They proved that sometimes just a small act of kindness, no matter how little, can create miracles. A warm cup of coffee, a sweet pastry, or simply a timely word of encouragement can change a life. And when kindness spreads, it can transform a community, even the whole world. But this story is not just for Lisa, Mark, or Shaq. It's for all of us, the ones who have the ability to make a difference in someone else's life, starting with small actions. Kindness doesn't need wealth, doesn't need fame. It just needs to come from the heart. Spread it, because the world always needs more light from kind hearts. If you find this story meaningful, share it with your loved ones. And if you want to continue accompanying us, explore more inspiring and meaningful stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let's spread kindness, one story at a time. Thank you for listening, and don't forget, a kind act today can create a beautiful future. Start right now.